The first place, grade 11 and 12, is Aware by Mitchell Turok and Isaac Brain from Brosney College and Launceston College. Outstanding work. Mitch and Isaac demonstrated a great understanding of this real-world issue. They have developed a watch connected to an online service which can monitor people in aged care and alert nursing homes if required. And I got to have a bit of a quick look at this out front. It looks like a fantastic project. So congratulations.
So thank you, Austin, for that. Absolutely awesome project. So that's the first part of the awards done. If you haven't received yours yet, don't fret. Obviously, we're going to keep going. The best in category projects are coming up. So we're going to pause for a moment and have a very special guest speaker. This is Dr. Emily Fleece. Dr. Fleece is a postdoctoral researcher in the School of Natural Sciences and an excellent science communicator. She is co-founder of a very popular Science in the Pub, and if you have not been to that, if you're over 18, of course, please attend. It is excellent. It's a monthly event at the Republic Bar. And she was named Tasmanian STEM Communicator of the Year in 2017. Please welcome Dr. Emily Fleece.
Actually, underagers can come to Science in the Pub. You don't have to drink to come enjoy the science there. So people can bring their kids. It's family fun for all. Yeah, so as Jenny said, my name is Emily Fleece. I'm a postdoctoral researcher. And tonight I'd like to talk to you about failure. And I'd like to explain to you why on this night of success, of celebrating your successes, I want to talk to you about failure. Hopefully that'll be clear by the end of my talk. But first, I am a scientist. I'm a postdoctoral researcher. I've been doing research for over 10 years. I have a master's degree and a PhD in disease ecology. I've done my own field work in temperate and tropical rainforests. I've done my own captive studies and lab work. I run my own spatial and statistical analyses, and I write my own code. I'm a card-carrying scientist. Literally, my business card says scientist. But I wasn't always that way. When I started university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. So I looked through the catalog of classes that my university offered, and I just picked the ones that I really wanted to take, that sounded the most interesting to me. I took things like contemporary Afro-Caribbean religion, the psychobiology of sex, and medical ethics, because those things were interesting to me. And by taking the classes that I enjoyed, I finished with a dual degree in anthropology and psychology. I finished a Bachelor of Arts. And I quickly found out that there were no job postings for psychological anthropologists. So I worked odd jobs. I worked at Subway. I taught outdoor education for a few years. I traveled. I volunteered on some research projects. One of those research projects took me to Bolivia, and I got to follow these Bolivian gray titi monkeys through the tropical rainforest, trying to avoid getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, and observing them through binoculars and writing down their behaviors. And if I ever saw them take a poo, I got very excited and I ran over. It was like Easter Day. I'd search through the leaf litter and I'd find that poo and put it in a vial. The researchers were interested in what parasites those monkeys had. But that project got me thinking about how humans and animals share parasites, probably because I should have been wearing gloves when I picked up the poo, and how changes to the environment impact that transmission cycle. So I thought, what happens when we start cutting down the tropical rainforest for houses and roads? Do more people get infected because there are more people in the forest? Or do less people get infected because there are less monkeys shedding parasites? And I realized my background in a Bachelor of Arts wasn't going to help me answer those questions. I had to turn to science. Now you guys already know this about all the amazing questions you can answer with the scientific method. But I applied for some PhD programs, and I was accepted into one at Michigan State University in disease ecology. Now getting accepted into that program was thrilling, but it was also terrifying because I didn't have the science background. I felt like an imposter. like I'm not really smart enough to be an expert in science. I hadn't taken the maths classes, the statistics, the ecology, the biology, and I was expected to teach biology during that course. So I went in with a lot of insecurities. I was studying whether certain bird species can transmit a bacteria and pass it on to ticks, and whether they get sick with that infection. And to do that project, I had to work really, really hard, partially to catch up on those classes that I had missed from my undergraduate degree, but also just to answer my questions. So I did 2 years of field work. Spring and summer, I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd go capture birds, I'd identify them, take ticks off of them, test the ticks for bacteria, take blood samples to see what the birds were infected with, bring it all back to the lab to process it. At the end of the second year of field work, I brought some wild birds into captivity and exposed them to the bacteria to see if they could transmit it and to monitor them to see if they got sick. We didn't know if this emerging bacteria was going to have an impact on the bird population, so I wanted to find that out. It was a grueling 3 years, and at the end of the 3 years, I was starting to answer some of those questions that I had. I had a meeting with my supervisor, and she sat me down and said, Emily, you have a lot of opportunities available to you in the future, but finishing a PhD with me is not one of them. I was blindsided. I said, what? You're kicking me out? Well, what are my options? And she said, I've been advised to let you figure that out for yourself. It was a very short meeting. I walked out of her office, I made it out of the building, I sat down in the grass and cried. It wasn't just the feelings of rejection and failure, it was a confirmation of all of those insecurities, that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't smart enough, and I would never be an expert in science. But I took the next couple of weeks and I talked to my friends, my family, my mentors. I had wonderful mentors there at Michigan State, and they all encouraged me and said, you can do this. If you want to do it, you can do it. But you're going to have to start over. You have to finish a master's degree with this supervisor, and then do your PhD somewhere else, if that's what you want to do. So I did. I finished a master's degree with that supervisor. I worked with her for another 6 months. I wrote up some of my research, published it, and finished a master's thesis. And I started a PhD in Australia. So I moved to Adelaide, and I investigated the transmission ecology of Ross River virus, which is a mosquito-borne virus. I wanted to know why certain areas in the state were hotspots for transmission. What was it about the environment in those locations that facilitated transmission of that disease? I developed these special traps here that allowed us to test the saliva of the mosquitoes to see if they were infected with virus. And in the second year of my thesis, I had the opportunity to compete in a 3-minute thesis competition. And the way that works is you're expected to condense 80,000 words of a thesis into about 3 minutes of a presentation. So the idea of competing in that 3-minute thesis was a bit scary, but I figured I'd take on the challenge. So I developed this 3-minute talk, kept it straight to 3 minutes. I talked about how excited I was about my work and about the special trap that I had innovated. I stood up there in front of all my peers and professors, and I blanked. I froze. I couldn't remember what I was supposed to say. And I stood there for 10 seconds, silently battling all those insecurities. I eventually caught the thread of my talk, and I finished that presentation, but I went over time, and I didn't progress to the next round. Now I stop there and remind you, standing in front of you today is a scientist. I can use the word aliquot comfortably in a sentence. I can define myself as a scientist, but that's because I didn't define myself by my failures. I failed at that first PhD. I failed the first time I tried to do a 3-minute thesis, but I didn't let that define me. I decided to keep taking on challenges and see what I was capable of. So the next year, when the 3-minute thesis competition came around again, I didn't say, oh no, I've tried that and I can't do it. I said, I'll give it a go again. Maybe this time I'll be better. And I was better. The second time, I nailed it. I won the 3-minute thesis for my university, both as the judge's selection, but also the audience favorite. I won $4,000 that day. It was a really good day for me. You can clap for that. Thank you. I heard that. And a few months later, I graduated. I was awarded Thesis of the Year, and a month later got a job here as a postdoctoral researcher. I now get to wake up every day excited to come to work to do my research. I study how land use change and urbanization impacts the microbial community, so the bacteria and fungi in the air and soil, and what that means for human health. I love what I do, and it's all because I got back up after I was knocked down. So I talk to you today on this day of your successes. I talk to you about failures for a couple reasons. I want to remind you that you are not defined by your failures, but you're also not defined by your successes. So you guys have won awards today, but I don't want you to think that you have to keep winning awards every time. You might limit yourself to only the challenges that you know you can succeed at that way. Don't be afraid of failure. Reach for the stars, challenge yourself, push yourself. And for me, that was pushing myself in science and math. I had a lot to learn there. I still have a lot to learn. So learning is one of the ways that I challenge myself in academia. But for you, it might be something else. It might be challenging yourself in the social settings, going out and talking to people more often, giving yourself more time to read, or just getting outdoors more often. But push yourself to be the best you that you can be. Take on those challenges and don't fear failure. So with that, I want to congratulate you guys. You worked hard on something and you succeeded, and you should be really proud. So I want to take a moment for all of you to cheer for the award-winning scientists that are here tonight. Congratulations. For the families in the room, for the parents in the room, for the teachers in the room, you guys helped those award-winning scientists get here today. When I was kicked out of my PhD, it was because of my family and friends and mentors that I was able to get back up when I was knocked down. So you guys are supporting those award-winning scientists. So let's hear a cheer for all of the supporters. To think about someone who's not here tonight. Someone who might have worked hard on a project but didn't get an award. Or someone who didn't even put in a project. Because they've been knocked down so many times, they don't think they can get back up. I want you to think about one of those people and what kind of a scientist they could be if they have a mentor like you. So picture one of those people, and let's clap for the future scientists of tomorrow. Thank you guys. Congratulations.
Can we just give Emily one more round of applause? I feel insanely inspired right now. I don't know about you guys. Can I go back to uni and study science? Maybe I can. So we will announce the category awards, which is pretty exciting. So the first award that we're going to start with is the Chief Judge Encouragement Award. So of course I'm going to welcome back up Dr. Adele Wilson to present this award.
All right, hang on, I'll be more formal, I'll come at you. All right, as the Chief Judge, I selected a project for an encouragement award. This award, goes to a project that came from the McKillop Catholic College. Can you please put your hands together for Slime Recipes for Sale by Sophie Newitt, Amalia Sampson, and Carly.